Hello and welcome to the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 85. My name is Chris.
I'm Euan.
That was Dave, and I'm Pawel.
Give it away.
Well, welcome to the episode, boys.
I can't believe we've gone 85 episodes without the buzzer.
It's good to have some sound effects. Feels like a morning zoo sort of setup.
So Dave's found a new toy.
Yep.
Well, actually, I introduced the new toys at the end of one of the last couple of episodes because they're for the quiz that I'm that's going to come up. I think probably in the next video games episode. I reckon we should probably do it. But
Can we not just have them?
but Dave decided there's other uses for these buzzers.
I'm sure we won't abuse it.
Yeah, just don't mention Mass Effect 2 and then you'll be alright.
I think we're going to use it as some sort of Pawel alarm.
Thank you. I always wanted to have a buzzer of my own.
So how you doing, guys?
Well, I'm awesome, as I usually am. Are you guys awesome?
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of
pretty good.
awesomeness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Got a share of awesome.
There we go.
You've been playing your banjo in the sunshine, I believe.
I have, yeah. No, I'm a bit sleepy if I'm perfectly honest.
Alright, or is that the 4 pints that you've had?
Aye, well, it's that as well.
I think
It's mainly the sunshine though.
we should clarify
mainly the
that this is Scotland, so what the locals consider sunshine is like maybe 16 degrees and some sun showing between the clouds.
Pawel, the weather here's never good enough for you, is it?
I don't think it's good enough for
it's
anybody.
It's never cold enough, or it's not hot enough. Or
Yep, it's very mild.
It's too mild.
That is a very...
Almost too medium.
This is too mediocre.
I need extremes.
Extreme mediocrity. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a name for a band if I've ever heard one. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about some video games. And I'm going to go first. Now, I've not really played a lot of new stuff, I'll be honest. But I have been going back. I have played one new thing, but I've been going back also and playing some stuff that I just feel like I had to revisit because I've got as we know, I've got a VR thing for the PlayStation, the VR thingy, as it's.
It looks rather dusty down there.
It was a bit dusty when I put it on. Actually, I had to give it a bit of a clean, but I decided I needed to go back and actually re-enter Skyrim. Because it's a lot of fun. It's one of the most fun games on the VR for the PlayStation anyway, at the moment. And I've been going back and actually putting some more time into it, and I've been really enjoying it. Because I don't know if I actually mentioned this. I think I may have mentioned it. I think I may have gone back and talked about it. But one of the things I talked about when I first played it was that the turning system on it was bullshit. Basically, it was segmented. It was segmented turning, and as we said the last time, it was there to save the people who get motion sickness when they're playing VR.
It's just all folks spewing on their carpets and then try to sue Sony for it.
Essentially, yes. And but they never actually gave you the option of smooth turning, which other games that I've played, like Resident Evil, for example, and Windlands, these sort of first-person perspective games where you're doing a lot of sort of shooting and stuff like that. They gave you the option of having smooth turning, and people demanded it when Skyrim, and people got the game and went, hang on a minute, I can't actually turn properly. And it was really annoying because it basically handicapped you when you were in a fight because you could only turn a certain amount of degrees. And then
I could not understand why they didn't give you at least the option.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bizarre because every other game did, like you say. It's mental.
Aye, it's absolutely crazy. So I mean, I was getting to the point with that segmented turning where I was basically just standing still and just looking to the left and right and trying to swing at people because the turning thing was just annoying. But they did update it. They listened to people, which was nice, and actually did an update and put the smooth turning in. And since that point, and the good thing is that you can turn up the speed of the smooth turning as well and turn it down so you can get it to a point where you're comfortable with it. And it's made the game so much more playable for me because I don't get motion sickness. I'm one of the lucky people that does not get any motion sickness with VR. I only get mild vertigo when you're up in a high place in VR and you look down, and it does still make me feel a bit wobbly. But that's one of the good things about VR, I think. It's supposed to give you that experience. Now, I mean, it is just the same old Skyrim, obviously, as I've said before. But it's just, playing through it with that whole VR thing and like watching a giant smashing a wolf down into the ground, which then causes it to rocket up into the sky at high speed. Seeing that in full glorious 3D is just one of the funniest things. Because that's one of the... I don't know if this was a deliberate thing that they put into Skyrim, but it was definitely one of the things that you always saw in Skyrim glitch videos, was a giant hitting something and it basically going into orbit. But seeing that in full 3D is absolutely brilliant. But I just want to say, yeah, I've gone back and playing that. I'm still doing the whole stealthy, not so much stealthy anymore actually, but I'm really focusing on the bow and arrow thing, because the bow and arrow stuff, the archery in this game is amazing still. It's still a lot of fun to just ping arrows about the place at high speed. But I'm starting to regret slightly not playing as a spellcaster, because I did use a scroll of fireball, and actually being able to point and just spit a fireball at something with your hands, using the move controllers, is actually just like quite a lot of fun. So I'm kind of regretting not doing that, because I've got this image in my head of just running about, just pointing your hands left and right with your fireball spells and just throwing them everywhere. I just that's something I'm kind of missing out on. So I'm kind of wondering if I should go and chuck some points into destruction spells and just try that out, just to see what it's like. But
it's definitely a feeling in the original Skyrim that like when you play as a spellcaster, you feel like how powerful it is, but you just don't get that sense of fun of playing because you're kind of
have to shoot straight ahead.
Yeah, I can. That would be fun.
So yeah, just like pointing your hands left and right and just spitting fireballs and lightning and everything everywhere is just that's pretty fun. That I'll have to say. Dave, you had a shot of this, didn't you?
I did. I was just thinking that I had a shot a couple of weeks ago. It was
your first time. What did you think about it?
First time playing Skyrim in VR. Yes. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I didn't go so stealthy, if I recall. I remember I punched a rabbit to death.
Yes, you did.
That was probably the highlight.
I think you chased it for quite a long time, didn't you?
Well, yeah, they're pretty fast. It's very realistic. I mean, if you've ever tried to punch a rabbit to death in real life, you'll know it's a challenge, and they've replicated that in Skyrim.
I think the fact you were able even to pull it off is quite impressive.
Yeah, it was good, and I just ran around a lot and felt a bit dizzy a lot of the time.
Did you feel you got used to that feeling though? Because I think you were having... You thought the turning was too fast.
Yeah, I probably would have needed to slow the turning down a little bit just for my own comfort. Being outdoors is a lot easier on the motion sickness than is being indoors. And it's when you like run, jump and turn at the same time. It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
I find. But yeah, it was alright.
So one of the things that I like about Skyrim VR, because when I gave you a go of it, I was inside a dungeon. That it kind of it feels a bit weird, I think, when you're in the dungeon and you take the helmet off, because you almost feel like you're in an enclosed space when you're inside the dungeon, and then when you take the helmet off and realise that you're just sitting in your living room, it's a weird feeling. What did you think about that?
I can't actually remember, because I think I was outside when I took the helmet off, so I didn't quite get the same thing. And I do remember I spent a large amount of time trying to see if it's possible to play VR games with the VR helmet upside down on your lap.
Yes, I do remember that.
It was visually quite arresting.
It was interesting, but I don't recommend you play the game that way. It made it a lot more difficult.
You're not going to achieve much.
Well, it's interesting. It doesn't register you as being upside down, I guess, because you can't be upside down normally in Skyrim. So, yeah, it was a bit weird. It's very difficult to shoot things with my bow and arrow.
But yeah, Skyrim VR is still a lot of fun. I just want to say that, and it's something that I've been putting a lot of time into lately, which is why I haven't really played. I should really have been playing the game I'm about to talk about, but I just got distracted by the VR goodness. Actually, no, I'm not about to talk about it. I'm about to talk about Unexplored quickly, which is a game that I have talked about before, and it's still one of my favourite games of the past sort of couple of years, and it's just made by a small developer, and it's a roguelite on Steam.
This is the Honey Monster.
Yeah, the One-Eyed Honey Monster. In fact, our episode titled One-Eyed Honey Monster, you can go and listen to that if you want to hear what I think about it, really. But I've been putting a lot of time into that, and especially when I've been travelling back and forth on trains and stuff, just playing up my laptop. And that's still a lot of fun, and they're still updating it, they're still putting new things into the game, and it's so hard, so challenging. I've still, like, the whole idea, it's still got that whole, get to the bottom of the dungeon and get your way back out again once you find the amulet of, what was it, Yendor? I believe they do still use that name in this game.
Yeah, rogue reference.
It's a rogue reference, yep. And I've been putting a lot of time into that as well. I've not really got anything to add to it. It's just, it's the same game really, but it's just, I still keep finding new things in it that I've never seen before. Every time I play it, I always discover some little thing that's just like, oh right, okay. But yeah, I mean, it's if you like roguelite games, then I pick this game up because I think this is one of the best ones. It's up there with Rogue Legacy. For the past few years in these rogue style games,
I've been very tempted to pick this one up.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'd be tempted to say that it's very samey because you do die and you do then have to go back to the beginning and then start a new character and go back through again. But one of the good things about this game actually is that you can play through the same dungeon with the next character rather than just completely generating a new one. I never do it. In fact, no, I did it once, sorry, because just wanted to see if I could do any better. But, you don't know what's going to happen once you get past the point where your character died, so...
So what's the average length of your lifespan, as in one character, from beginning till death?
In real time?
Yeah.
In real time, I think the longest I've played it was probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I still only got to like level 5 of the dungeon. Because the dungeon branches, and you can go and do little side bits of the dungeon and then come back up the stairs and go down another set of stairs and find some other stuff. The good thing is that the map does tell you if the part of the dungeon you're in, you can actually go down any lower from there. So if you go downstairs and you find a room, you'll know if you can actually go down any further than that, or if this is just going to be one of these side areas. Generally, if it's a side area, then there's going to be some sort of mini boss monster in it that you can kill and get some stuff out of, or there'll be a hidden chest somewhere or something like that. That's going to be some sort of challenge to get to. But the game's like the random level design in it is excellent. I don't know how they've done it, but they've actually made it so that the game is challenging enough, but not impossible. But yeah, Dave, I think pick it up and have a go at it.
Yeah, I should really.
It is an excellent game, I have to say. But what I should have been putting my time into, and I have put a little bit of time into, but only really about an hour in real terms, is Ni no Kuni 2, which I've had since my birthday, which was a month ago now. And I keep meaning, because it's an RPG game, and I played the first Ni no Kuni, and I knew that, like, I put a lot of time into the first Ni no Kuni. I wanted to sit down and, have a day off work and sit down and play for like 8 hours or something, and just like really get a feel for this game, get past all that sort of starting stuff that you have to deal with in RPGs like this.
Yeah.
And I've just really not found that time, because there's always just something's come up. I've had to go and do something or whatever, or I've ended up, somebody's asked me to go and play Battle Royale with them or something, so I've gone and done that instead. But yes, I have put an hour into it because I felt like I really needed to get started on it. And so, if you know what it is, this is Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom. It's the Studio Ghibli style artwork. The last game was on PS3, the first game. This one's on PS4, so the graphics look even better now.
Are Studio Ghibli still involved in the actual? Because they were heavily involved in the first one, the actual creation of it.
You know what? I couldn't tell you. I just assumed that they were.
Possibly. It was definitely. It was. I think the level 5 or level 7. I can never remember. I think it was level 7 because I used to call it Slevin, and that it made the Dragon Quest games and Studio Ghibli kind of came together to kind of make that one.
Well, it's level 5.
Level 5. It is level 5,
and published by Bandai Namco. In fact, I can't really see any anything about Studio Ghibli or whether they were involved in it.
Oh yeah, it's because it's got a 5 in front of it, so it looks like an S. So I used to call it Slevels.
Slevels.
That's it.
But it has that look. It has the Studio Ghibli style artwork. Now it does have a very similar look and kind of feel to it as the first game because of that. But it has a very, very different storyline, and it seems that the battle system is completely different as well. Because I think that the first game got a bit of criticism for its battle system, despite it being, praised as a very good game. I think the battle system became some of it was a wee bit clunky. You played through the.
I played a fair bit in Kuni, and I remember when the battle, when they started to introduce it. It did seem like it was going to become overly complicated because the whole thing was based around these. It was basically Pokemon.
That it's basically a Pokemon game, yeah.
Again, which was something that was kind of taken over from Dragon Quest. Cause it's always been a big thing in Dragon Quest games of having your pets or capturing monsters, and that was how you did it in Kuni, and you would get them to then fight for you, but your characters because you had 3 main characters. The main one was the guy that was sort of sucked into that world, and then there was some random girl, and then there was another I keep wanting to call Fenton.
I can't remember her name. We'll just call her Fenton, but that's the name of that dog
Fenton.
in that video that ran away.
Oh right, Fenton. No,
do you remember that video?
Yep. Fenton was the one. Fenton was the one.
Jesus Christ,
Fenton!
Oh, that's what happened.
It's the dog that went off and chased a bunch of
into the road.
Like
sheep
the
or
end of the wicker,
cows or something. I can't remember.
It's like, oh Christ, Christ!
I'm confused.
It was a viral video a few years ago, Pawel. Just
Richmond Park.
I
yes,
see.
Dog
some guy's dog chased deer. That was it.
And it was
chasing
called
deer.
Fenton, and that's what made it so amusing.
Fair enough.
Fenton.
I was thinking of the Tinkerer guy. That's who it was. They were called Fenton. He was one of the 3 characters. He was the third one you thought he was the bloke.
Yeah,
he was kind of like this weird. Turned out he was a prince or something like that. But he was like he liked mucking about with machines and things. He was he tinkered with mechanisms and whatnot. But anyway, he had those 3 characters. Did any of them have any of them made an appearance?
No, because I think it's a completely different game.
It's like I was getting the impression.
I think it's set in the same world. So what I'm gathering, this is just based on what I've read and what I've played so far. Because actually, the first place that you come to is Ding Dong Dell.
Oh right,
which is the first location in the first game as well. But from what I've read, it's set after the first game, hundreds of years or something like that. But it's well, let me get into this actually, because what you actually do. Because this game just totally threw me a curveball, alright, where the story and how it began. And it started off with one of these, sort of dreamy, da-da-da, here's our introduction. There's a mystical world somewhere, all that sort of stuff, which I kind of zoned out of when it was all on the screen. But then, what actually happens in the opening sequence, and I'm not really spoiling this, because this is the opening sequence, is... It seems that you're in the real world, in the real world, which is how Ni no Kuni started, the first one. You're a boy that's taken from the real world into a fantasy world. And you see a line of limousines, and it zooms in the limousine, and there's a man in the back in a suit, a sort of elderly man with greying hair. And there's a seal in the back of his chair, which looks very, very similar to the USA seal. It has that ego on it and all that sort of stuff. So yes, you're playing as the President of the United States in this game.
Oh my god!
Or what the game world's idea of the United States, presumably. So you're driving across a bridge, and then he looks out the window, and a massive missile goes past and blows up the city that he's about to drive into. The next thing you know, he's lying on the ground, he's struggling to get up, and then it sort of fades out, and you are in Ding Dong Dell. And there's a little kid called Evan, which I think is a name that's reused from the first game.
I think it was Evan.
Was it Evan? Evan was the kid in the first game. Is that right?
I've got a feeling it might be.
I'm trying to dig this out in my memory banks now, but
yeah.
And he's like a scared little kid who is the king of Ding Dong Dell, and you, as the president, come through a portal thing or something like that, just appear in this kid's room. but you're a younger version of yourself. So you're a younger version of this president of the United States.
This is so bizarre.
It's utterly weird. Like, this is what I mean. It's like, I was like, what the hell is going on here? Why am I the president of the United States? But this is just what's happened. And it would appear that this kid has no idea what's going on around him, and there's actually a massive rebellion is kicked off. So this king is the king of the cat people. So he looks like a human, but he's just got pointy cat ears, and he's got a tail. There's people coming to kill him. So what actually happens is that the president guy walks out, he goes, oh, I'm going to have a look around, and then some like soldiers turn up, and they're here to like kill the king, this little boy. So they use the president of the United States, get your gun out and shoot them.
You have a gun?
Yes, you have a gun. And I'm pretty sure it's a Glock, because you're an American president. Of course you're going to have a Glock on you. So he shoots these soldiers, and the thing is that the whole time that this is going on, this president guy is absolutely unfazed by what's going on. It's like this is almost like an everyday. He's going about going, this is interesting. What's going on here? And then But then he gets like he shoots these soldiers, then picks up one of their swords, and has a sword fight with some of the rest of them. Like any good president of the United States would if he was in danger. But at least he's put his gun away. But it's utterly weird. It's just like I mean, you have to suspend disbelief, I suppose, when you're playing these kinds of games. But
so there's maybe some mystery to be resolved there. That's kind of because I think that I can't remember exactly what it was, and there was the whole thing because it was all like the whole thing was a kind of weird psychological break for this. Well, it could be interpreted as that. Basically, with it's like his mother dying, and the kind of guilt, and like he goes off into this fantasy land. So it's like interesting the way they've taken that with the second one.
It's weird, but I mean, I think the first game had a really like emotional setup to it because you're playing as this little kid and his mum dies, and then all of a sudden he finds himself meeting Mr. Drippy. And being drawn into this other world and being told that there's a chance he could save her. Yeah. And that's like the hook. That's the thing. I guess. You've got to go and save this kid's mother because there's another version of her in this fantasy world. But so far, this has just been okay. This city's been blown up, and all of a sudden you're in this other thing. There's no explanation as how he got there. It's just like there you are, and he's wandering about, just going like, "How did I get here? What is this place? Blah blah blah. I'm going to shoot these men." And he's a younger version of himself, not like child version. It's like he looks like a sort of 20-year-old man or something, like early 20s, something like that. Anyway, so the setup for this has just been absolutely weird. I should have said actually that Evan, the king of Ding Dong Dell, he looks a bit like He-Man. He's got that bowl cut thing going on, with the long hair at the back. And and the people that are doing the uprising are they're people that have obviously the cat folk and the mouse folk have tried to get along, but the mouse folk have had enough. And Mousinger, the leader of the mouse folk, he's the kid's father's advisor, or he was, and it turns out you learn that actually Mousinger, he poisoned the kid's father, and now he's going to come and kill the kid so that there's no more king. It's mice versus cats here in this in Ding Dong Dell.
Goodness me.
But like the actual gameplay of it itself, so far there's none of the Pokemon stuff going on. I don't think that's a major part of this in Ni no Kuni 2. I know that there is something like that comes into it at some point, but so far it's been that you're controlling this president guy. He's called Roland, by the way, President Roland. And you will be switching between various weapons. So you get given a thing called an arms band. Not an armband, an arms band, which is the excuse for you being able to quickly switch between your weapons. So you've got 3 weapon slots and a ranged weapon slot, which is where your gun comes into it. And you've got like an energy bar, and you can fire your gun, but that uses up your energy bar, so you have unlimited ammunition basically. And they use in-game explanations for this. Actually, your bullets are made out of magic. Okay. Okay, fair enough. But like you're switching your weapons, and like they build up a sort of like almost like I want to call it a limit break. And they build up, and you can do special moves once they get to 100%. And the idea is that you keep switching between the weapons while they're building up their limit thing, and then using them at the right times.
It's quite similar to what Final Fantasy 15 was doing with the combat
possibly,
system.
yeah. But I don't know, I never played that,
Yeah.
so...
There was a lot of, like, because the whole thing was you had all these different weapons and you could, like, equip 3 or potentially 4, I can't actually remember now, and you could swap between them as you were playing, and the different weapons would modify your playing style, but you'd also, like, build up this kind of
right.
the armature thing or whatever, which could basically be your limit break. Yeah, it's interesting that they've used that.
I think the thing is in this, that the weapon build-up thing, like, I'm going to call it a limit break thing, but the build-up, when it gets to 100%, it's quite quick.
Right.
And it builds up just by hitting people. So the more you hit people, the faster this thing will go up. And then I think the idea is that you use an ability and then switch out to the next weapon.
Are you, like, the other thing is, are you fighting in the field, or are you sort of, like, do you go into, like, is there like a battle screen thing?
So it's a lot smoother in this. So basically when you approach an enemy, and you start a fight with them just by swinging at them or something like that, it sets up a battle thing around the area.
Right.
But there's no sort of like transfer screen or anything like that. It just very smoothly just goes into battle mode, and then you've got an area that you can stay inside. So far the fights have been very easy, and this has been one of the criticisms I've read about this game, is that apparently the fights are too easy. Because I remember in Ni no Kuni there were some fights that were quite difficult at times. I mean, Ni no Kuni sets itself up to be a sort of cartoony, childlike world, but there's no way that a child could get through that game. Like, it's too complicated.
Yeah, because like certain enemies required you to do really specific things, and you'd have to use it was quite complicated with the Pokemon basically system of like certain monsters doing specific like types of attacks, and like try to set that up. Yeah, I can imagine it being absolutely brutal for.
Yeah. But so it seems that they've simplified maybe not simplified it, but they've just made it easier. But this is a much more sort of like you're playing as a 20-odd-year-old president of America with a gun. So they've made the character less like a childlike character, if you see what I mean. So, but I think you do get more characters as the game goes on. Like Evan himself is now just following this guy about because he sees him now as he's like, oh god, this guy's saving me from all these mice that are trying to kill me. So he's just following you about, and he's got his own arms band now and everything. So I get the feeling that at some point you're going to be able to switch to Evan and actually use him as a character. So I don't know, like I say, I've only played a little bit of it. I don't want to go on too much about it, because I would then just start making assumptions. So far, it's got the same feel as Ni no Kuni, the first game, but it's just like I say, that whole playing as a president thing has just totally thrown me, and it's interesting. I do want to go back and play it and just find out what the hell's going on with this game, but we'll see how it goes. I've read that there's some sort of like town management part of the game as well, where you're actually like managing Evan's kingdom. And having to keep shops stocked and supplied and stuff like that. So that sounds quite fun. That sounds quite interesting. I do like a bit of management in my games, so we'll see how that goes. But that's Ni no Kuni 2: Revenant Kingdom. Okay, let's move on. Dave.
Hello.
I can't wait to hear about what you're going to talk about.
Right. Well, before I do that, I have to quickly mention something to do with the game Wrong World that I spoke about in the last podcast, I think it was.
Oh, yes.
We received a tweet from Jamie at Sludge Games thanking us for talking about his game, but also mentioning that I'd got the price wrong. I said it was £20, subsequently reduced to 15. That's not correct. Basically, it's on sale for $10.99 at the moment. That's full price is $10.99. So if it's on sale, it's less. Yep. So also the lawyers have instructed us to say that Jamie from who made Wrong World is not a greedy bastard, and Sludge Games are a great bunch of lads. And anything we said that may have given any impression to the contrary was an accident, and we apologise.
You would have said a thing like that.
I know.
Dave, that was precious.
I think it was me.
He's standing by it.
It's a good game. Go and buy it. Right, but...
Sorry, Jamie.
Today, I'm going to talk about a game called Kenshi, which I picked up on Steam. I think it's Steam only, PC only, as far as I'm aware.
I will check that.
You can check how much it costs as well, because I have no idea.
Well, we don't want to go out making any accusations.
It cost me €80. Now, Kenshi is an unusual game in a way. It's slightly tricky to describe. However, it does look and has a feel similar to a lot of other games. The most direct comparison would be RimWorld, I think, because it has a lot of base building in it. But also, there are elements of RPG, not RPG in the way Pawel would describe an RPG, a true RPG, but RPG
Let's not get that.
in the sense that you've got stats and skills and inventory, and there's the ragdoll which you can put your various bits of armour on and all that guff that's in it. And also elements of real-time strategy in a sense, which will become clear hopefully when I try and explain it. I mean, when you look at it, it looks a bit, probably what you might think of first is Fallout, because it's set in a kind of post-apocalyptic type scenario. You're in a wasteland. There's a lot of desert and wastelandy type stuff everywhere you look. It's very barren and like dried out trees and stuff. But also it has this, it has this strange Asian aesthetic to it. I mean, part of that comes from the name. Kenshi, which is like vaguely Japanese sounding. Pawel, you own this game, don't you?
Yes, I do own it.
Just on a sort of tangent, why did you buy it?
I can't remember.
Is it because it sounds vaguely Japanese?
Possibly, yes. It's one of those that will show on my Steam library as have played 0.5 hours, which is just me turning it on and going to make tea.
Yeah, I cannot think of a game that Pawel is less likely to enjoy than this particular game. But yeah, the aesthetic of it is, I mean, the architecture and the towns and what have you looks a little bit Japanese, a little bit kind of Middle Eastern, and I guess that's part of the deserty look of it as well, and alien as well, because you're not on Earth. So although it's post-apocalypse on some other place. So it has this sort of slightly off-kilter, odd look to it, and kind of to everything, and that's good. I like that about it. I like games that are slightly weird, and it definitely has that. So you have to... Oh, and also it reminds me a lot of Morrowind, visually, strangely.
Oh?
Well, see, because if you remember Morrowind, Morrowind has a slightly alien look to it as well.
Yeah.
And also a slightly Asian look to a lot of things in Morrowind. Do you remember, like, the crab houses?
Yes.
And the sort of things like that. So that's a little bit what it made me think of as well. So you have to imagine a game like Morrowind, except you're looking at your character and you can roll the mouse button to zoom out, and it will zoom further and further. It's in third person. It will zoom further and further until you're like way up in the sky, so you can zoom miles out. And then you control your character like a real-time strategy game, as in you don't control them directly using the keys or the gamepad. You right-click to get them to walk to a place. You right-click on a corpse and say, bring up the menu and say, loot this corpse, and your little dude will run along, and then he'll go and pick up things from the corpse. Fighting enemies, same thing. You right click on the enemy, attack this guy, he runs off, and they have a little fight. You can take it further, because there's a limit to how far you can zoom out, but you can bring up the map, the world map, and while you've got your character selected, just right click anywhere on the map, and he'll start running to that point. And it can be somewhere that will take him like hours of real life time to get there. But that's what he'll do. He'll just run along, and unless something stops him, eventually he will get there. And it's like that, but you have more than one character. So you're not just one person, you can recruit more people as you go. So it's a sort of like, I think of it a bit like a sort of Skyrim-y real-time strategy, except no story and no quests. So you have to imagine if you strip... That's nothing like Skyrim because it's alien, but okay, Morrowind, whatever. Or Fallout. Yeah, let's say Fallout. So imagine Fallout, but you can have multiple people, they're in squads, you right-click and send them off to do things.
Well, it sounds like Fallout Tactics.
It's real-time.
You can play with Fallout Tactics in real time.
But what's the deal with there being no quests? That just doesn't make sense. If you have the ability to do a number of things and no reason to do them, then I would just maybe turn it off and play something else.
Well, this is why it's definitely not a game for you, Pawel,
Okay.
because it's the game where you make your own adventure. Because
That sounds like outsourcing.
so you've got
No, it's role playing.
you've got all this stuff. Oh yeah, it's definitely an RPG. you kind of role
Pavel, do
play.
you not know what role playing is?
But on top of all
I'd
of
like to hear it from you, please.
on top of all of that, you've got a base building element as well, which is very like, I mean, it is a bit like games like RimWorld and many other games. It doesn't use the Dwarf Fortress RimWorld style model where you give people jobs and they just
Yeah.
go off, because in Kenshi you can control people directly. But you can still give them jobs, and you can give them a queue of jobs, and they'll look through and they'll do the first available one, and if that's not available, they'll do the next one. So you can set up automation in the same way, but you can also control each person manually.
Right.
So that's kind of the gist of how the game works. In terms of what you're supposed to do, you can do whatever you like. You're set in this very hostile world. There's a couple of starting scenarios that you can pick, very similar to RimWorld, where you can choose whether you start with one character or whether you start with a couple and how much money you have. And possibly it might affect other things in the game. I'm not sure. But it really is up to you what you do. You can go and build a base. You can decide not to build a base at all and just live a nomadic existence. You can have a single character if you want. That's kind of boring and pointless, but I know some people who do that. On the forums they've mentioned it. Or you can build up a big squad of people and just rampage about the map, taking on other enemies. There's bounties, there's tons of different factions for you to interact with. You kind of go your own way. And when I first started the game, it's very harsh and unforgiving.
It sounds like that kind of game.
Yeah, especially if you play it the way I do, where I don't read anything about it.
Yeah, that's me
And
too.
that is the way to play this game. So, like, when I first started, even just moving the camera is horrible. It's one of these games where you have to move the camera manually all the time, and you just have to adjust to
Right.
when you're doing that. It's like playing Monster Hunter, say. So you're constantly, every time you move around, you need to be adjusting the camera, otherwise it'll be inside buildings or mountains and whatever. I was just dumped in a town. There was a bunch of people around, but I had to click through some tutorials. By the time I clicked through all the tutorials, all the people were gone. There was nobody to be seen. I was stuck in this town. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't seem to interact with anything. I managed to sit in a toilet. that was a big achievement.
I was counted as a success, yeah.
I was like, right, I've finally done something. I've managed to sit on a toilet. It's like, I'd like to go and talk to someone, but I can't find anyone. Eventually I managed to find a tavern.
Where you could tell your poo story.
Yeah, spoke to the shopkeeper. He had stuff for sale. Everything was ridiculously expensive. Accidentally bought some food that used up half the money I had. Now I was like, well, what do I do now? So I was like, well, I'll just go to the next town. I figured out the map thing, so I right-clicked, because it showed me another town that I could go to. So I right-clicked on the map, and my guy just starts running off. And you can speed up time in this game as well. You can pause to do your decisions, and you can make it go double or 3 times as fast. So off he goes, he's running along, but he encountered some bandits, about 20 of them,
As you do.
out in the wasteland. I tried to fight them, they beat me to death. Well, or so I thought, but it turns out I wasn't actually dead, because the game was still going, and they were like milling around, and like they were going through my like rooting through my corpse to steal my stuff.
Oh my God.
But I clicked on my guy and the status says playing dead, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I waited for them to go away. Eventually they wandered off, and then I sort of clicked my guy to try and make him move, and he sort of stood up and then immediately fell over again because one of his legs had been crippled. So
I already love this game.
So I was like, shit.
I've not even played it.
So I was like, all right, but I can still crawl. So I was crawling along. I was like, right, well, fuck it. I'm going to crawl back to the town. But then I saw there was like a little campsite, like a fire and a little bedroll. And I was like, right, I'm going to crawl to that bed because I know that if I sleep in that bed, I'll start healing. So I set my guy crawling towards it. But unfortunately, one of his the leg that was injured came off.
just broke off.
It was so badly damaged I actually lost it because I was crawling.
Oh no!
And then he he just bled out. And it took ages. Like, he just lay
And
there
you
on the
sat
ground.
and watched the whole thing.
Yeah, I've got a screenshot of it. There's a sort of bloody trail going along the ground where you can see him crawling along, and eventually he loses consciousness, and there's a huge pool of blood. And then I waited for like 10 minutes, and then he died, and eventually that was the end of the game.
Oh my god!
So
Beautiful.
that was my first experience, and I tried so many different things. I was like, I tried stealing stuff. I got caught. The guards beat me up and threw me out of the tavern. I managed to recruit another person. We tried to build a settlement. Bandits just came rampaging through and attacked us. We sort of ran away, but they took over the settlement and basically occupied it. So I managed to kill a couple of them, and I got some armor and stuff, but trying to fight them, and then no, it just never worked. And eventually I figured out that I'm doing it wrong. You have to play this game seriously. You can't just dick about the way I was doing, like just fighting. You can't just go out fighting the first people because you're weaker than absolutely everything in the game.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, this time I'm going to do it properly, and I managed to make it stick, and it was so exciting I wrote a story about it.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, you've actually written it as well.
Yeah, well, I had to, because otherwise, like I said, if I tried to do this from memory, it would be longer than the podcast. So let me tell you the tale, as I've written, the saga of the large and unnecessary clan.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
We're all involved. Slowly I toiled, day by day, naked, mining chunks of near valueless iron ore and living on overpriced pub meals. I had recruited Chris to the cause, fresh from a trip to the plastic surgeons, because that's how you rename characters in this game. And we toiled together. Mobility and opportunity were our watchwords. Anything that was of no immediate use was sold. Weapons, armour, even the clothes upon our backs.
Dave, for me and you just naked.
Well, this is what I figured out.
That's how you bond when you first team up. Yeah.
There's an encumbrance thing in this game, and it's very important. And one of the reasons I was losing is because I kept picking up armour from places and over-encumbering and then making everybody really slow, and it actually made the game harder wearing armour. So eventually I figured out anything that was of no immediate use was sold. Weapons, armour, even the clothes upon our backs. When bandits came, we discarded everything that might encumber us and ran, outpacing them just enough to reach the nearest town where the guards took care of our dirty work for us. When we'd saved enough, we paid everything we had to recruit Euan, a tall bearded fellow who looked like he'd be a dab hand at the mining.
Can't believe you spent that much money.
If I was in a post-apocalyptic setting and I bought Euan, I would definitely set him to mining.
So we have Chris, a naked volunteer, and an extremely expensive bearded Euan.
Yep.
Fantastic.
We were all naked.
That's almost true.
We lived like animals, scavenging from the dead and preying upon the dying. I remember clearly watching Euan, dressed only in his pants and a cube-shaped trader's backpack, honing his fighting skills by slowly beating to death a bunch of crippled bandits with an iron bar.
Look, they're almost dead. We could get some experience.
There was no honour in it, but little by little we eked out a living until we had saved enough to make a place of our own.
Aww.
I sent Chris south to the Shek city of Squin. The Shek are a different race in this game, I meant to mention that. There's a few different races, and the Shek are sort of like they're sort of got these armoured plates in their body. They're a kind of indigenous warrior race. So they had a city to the south. So I sent Chris to the Shek city of Squin, where I knew of a female Shek warrior who was seeking adventure. And so it was that Pawel joined us.
Marvellous.
Oh no, I don't like where this is going.
You can't change the sex of the people that you recruit, so...
No, it works. Let's go on.
A clumsy and mindless brute, but with martial skills that might be of some use. The team finally assembled, and we headed north.
Oh yeah.
Eventually we came upon Okran's Pride, a verdant and peaceful valley in the lands of the Holy Nation. This was ideal. The bandits rarely ventured here, and those that did would be easily dealt with by the regular patrols of paladins and templars from the nation's capital. There were farms nearby to trade with and water was plentiful. We planted our flag and founded unnecessary HQ.
Yeah!
Within no time at all, we had a thriving settlement. Euan showed an aptitude for construction, while Chris became our technician. I preferred to tend the land, farming green fruit and cooking the meals.
A simple life.
Pawel smashed the rocks. Finally, we were self-sufficient and everything was good. And that's when the trouble started.
Obviously.
One morning, a delegation of Templars arrived and announced that we had an outsider in our midst. One who must be handed over for rebirthing, or we would face the consequences.
My God, they're after the immigrants again.
They were referring, of course, to Pawel. Of course. Turns out the Holy Nation don't care much for Shek or women. I assured them that Pawel was my slave, who I was re-educating in the ways of their stupid deity. They seemed unconvinced initially, but after some further obeisances, I brought them around to my point of view, and they left.
Nice.
The next day, a force of 50 or so Holy Nation warriors turned up on our doorstep, declared Pawel an abomination, and attacked.
That's only happened a few times so far.
And so we were scattered to the four winds. Chris, Euan and myself set off in different directions, heading for the Badlands where even the Holy Nation feared to tread. And I sent Pawel to the only place where I knew he would be safe, the city of Squin, from which I recruited him.
Oh, back to the motherland.
And that's how I'll always remember Kenshi, the game that made me send Pawel back to where he came from.
Oh, I knew this is where it was going.
That's what it's all about.
Good story, Dave. Good story.
Oh, damn.
All that stuff happened.
How does you follow four different characters? Like they go off in different. Could
I
you
suppose
switch
it's
between
like
them?
an RTS. Really.
It's really quite impressive. You can double click on each character portrait and it just jumps to where they are.
Right.
And even if that's a long distance away, it just jumps to them. And yes, it will take a moment to load in some of the assets that it needs in order to display what's going on. So there is a wee delay, but it's pretty short. And it does a pretty good job, I think, of modelling what's going on in the places where you're not currently looking at.
Right.
I mean, it's really quite impressive. It's hard to tell how much it does it, but it does it enough that it's convincing. So, like, I was saying you could send someone off to just go off to somewhere, and then you'll be, like, looking at your base, and then you'll see their little portrait flashing, and you jump to them, and they'll have encountered something, like it's normally bandits or sort of wild beasts or whatever, but they're like nearby, and then but while you're looking at them and maybe taking care of that, normally by running away in my case, it will still be modelling what's going on back at your base, so people will still be farming, and it tracks all of it. And
nice.
I mean, I don't have a huge base, so I can't say what happens when you've got 50 characters and a massive, basically almost a city. But certainly in my experience, it's worked really well, and that's one of the impressive aspects about it.
So your diplomacy skills with the Templars, you said there's no quests in the game, but so it looks like there's conversations and some sort of branching choices and the like.
Yeah, there's behaviours. There's a lot of different factions in this game, and animals as well, and they're like AI entities that exist in the world, and they do their own kind of thing, like they go on patrols, or like you'll be in a city and you'll see all the guards will suddenly be running outside, and it's because there's bandits nearby and they'll be having a scrap with the bandits, and then you can go and you can pick up all their stuff and like sell it. But then they'll depending on whether the bandits have bounties or not, if they have bounties, they'll pick them up and take them back to the police station and put them in cages, and you can go and rescue them from cages, and there's a chance they might join you. And despite my negative experiences with the Holy Nation, I actually had a positive relationship with them, because I'd been healing some of their injured guys after battle, just to train up the healing of our characters. But it meant that when I was somewhere else, we got randomly attacked by another faction who, like anti-slavers, who don't like the Holy Nation. So they have these behaviours, and yes, there are some sort of little pre-programmed random events that can happen. So that was I think technically that's like a raid that happened, and there's different types of raids that can happen, and they're triggered by different things. Like, I think if you get to a certain amount of prosperity, I guess the idea is bandits hear about you, and so they'll maybe turn up and try and attack your settlement. These kind of things. And yes, sometimes there are little brief sort of conversations you can have with people, and it gives you options that you can choose, and they have various consequences. But it's not, it's not an RPG in the sort of Mass Effect type sense.
No, I get you. Yeah, it does sound very RTS-y in a way, but it sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I can't guarantee you'll have the same fun experience that I had. It's very dependent on circumstance.
Yeah.
It just sounds sandboxy in a massive scale, unless I'm imagining it incorrectly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very strange game in many ways as well. I mean,
I've just been looking at it. It does have a bit of a sort of 7 Days to Die look about it. This kind of slightly...
yeah, except but without the sort of regular raids that you get the 7 day thing. It's the building is not voxel based like in 7 Days to Die, and you can't mine into the ground or anything. It's not like that. It's like there's iron ore and whatever, and you just go around and mine that. There's buildings and so on that you just place and then queue up jobs and so on. But yeah, I mean, it's quite buggy because it's in early access.
Well, I remember touching it very briefly, and that was a long time ago, and it was obviously early access back then. And I think I've decided not to try anything with it and just wait until there's more content, because it was very bare-bone back then. It does sound like there's way more stuff now in, but it
seems to get updated pretty regularly. Yeah, I mean, the things that are weird about it are the things that I like. Like,
that does not surprise me.
When you start this game, there's like game options, and one of them it says chance of death. There's like a slider for chance of death.
I love a good slider like that.
Well, like, as in
you're
some
in
sort
for
of
a good game when it's got a slider like chance of death.
But what, like to affect your luck or some sort of...
It just says chance of death, and you can set it to. It starts at 1. You can make it. You can't make it 0. I tried that.
Your character just randomly has a
You can have it down to 0.5, or you can put it up to something. Really
I'm assuming you've checked the highest difficulty thing.
No, because it's already freakishly difficult when I've set it to 1. So. But there's all sorts of weird stuff. Like, you've got armor for your characters. Your armor has I made a note of this. It has blunt resistance, which is a percentage. It has cut resistance, which is also a percentage. And then it has a third one, harpoon resistance.
Excellent.
Get that high harpoon resistance.
That's what you want in a game.
That's in points. It's not even a percentage. It's just because...
That sounds like piercing resistance.
I think yes. I think it's just not been updated yet. But I found a unique item in a shop. I was like, oh, so like it was a lantern, the lantern of radiance. I found it in a shop. It was like unique item, and there was 2 of them. The absolute best thing, the last one, the best thing that happened is there's a weird glitch in it where when you're carrying a character who's unconscious or dead, and you or the AI, if they're carrying them, when they put them down on the ground, most of the time they kind of interact with the ground and catapult up into the air.
Oh, lovely.
Excellent. So they're like, the guards are like getting corpses out of the town, so they throw them, and each one bounces like really high. But like one time there were bandits in my base, and I'd killed them because there was only a couple, and I was able to deal with them. And I carried their corpses out, threw them, or one of the corpses out, threw it down, it catapulted off the ground so high that it went over the wall and ended up back in the base.
Brilliant. I do love a good bug like that.
So it was just really entertaining.
Right, we're going to have to wrap that one up there, Dave. Although, I mean, I was really enjoying that. An excellent story.
I'll have a look at this game. I'm intrigued now.
That is Kenshi. And yes, I'm definitely going to look into this. It is $12.99 on Steam. That is British pounds. And it is only on PC.
Yep. It's by Jamie.
Is it actually by Jamie?
Yep, it's by Jamie from Bristol.
Is it the same Jamie?
Oh, wait, did I say Jamie? Sorry. No, it's by Chris.
It's by Chris.
Beg your pardon. Sorry.
Chris from Bristol.
Sorry, Jamie.
It's not Jamie from
No,
Sludge.
it's by Chris from Bristol.
Okay, Pavel.
Hello.
We are fast running out of time here. And we did this deliberately. We've
I'm
left your
sure this
Battletech
was
thing at
planned
the end
well.
because you're on a tight leash now.
No, it's okay because I can go on about BattleTech forever, which only means that I'll keep doing this over the next X episode. You give me the number.
Yeah,
6 episodes.
No.
Yeah.
So you wrote a letter to Euan last week, which was interesting.
Yeah, well, so about
I was surprised
that,
by it, certainly.
Yeah.
I was definitely surprised to hear that.
When
and,
the words were spilling from your pen, Euan.
As much as I was impressed by that letter, I was. It was very eloquent, I must say. Possibly too much to be genuine. It was not, in fact, genuine at all. And
I don't believe it.
in fact, a part of me was a little bit outraged, and I should say that it's probably not Euan's fault, but rather the particular bicycle courier that brought it. I'm sure it's his fault. Damn you, bicycle courier! And
Did he maybe dropped it in the canal and some of the words got mixed up?
Yeah.
let's assume so. It was partially offensive to my religion of harebrained studioism.
But Euan, there's no canals near here.
Oh well. Well then it's a whole mystery.
It's a mystery, yeah. This is a mystery.
Well, I'm gonna sum it up by saying, dear bicycle courier, you're a purveyor of fake news and also a spawn of Satan and other elder gods, because this was all untrue.
Okay, right, Pavel. So you did do an introduction to your BattleTech review a couple of episodes ago, which was about half an hour long.
And I hopefully mentioned how much I enjoyed the game so
I think
far.
you did tell us.
I would like to say that
was,
I do continue to enjoy it now.
It was basically 30 minutes of you telling us that you liked this game.
I absolutely love it. Can I continue by just saying that I do?
So you're now going to tell us about the mechanics of the game, I believe.
I could, yes.
Yes, go for it.
Okay, yes. Why not? Oh, I can see that Dave is planning to do the buzzer, so I'm going to try and indeed talk about the mechanics now.
I forgot about the buzzer. Right, let's do it.
BattleTech. No! Okay, this is going to be very, very confusing, but I'll try. Mechanics. BattleTech has three, I'm going to say three modes. One of them being the management mode. The other one is the tactics mode, and the third third thing is just the game loading. That's how you experience BattleTech, the game. You start it up. What?
The third experience in the game is the game loading.
Well, if you measure up the amount of time you spend, yes.
Well, I've read about this.
Yes, and I'll be honest. As much as I love the game, you do spend quite a lot of time just waiting for the game to load. It might just be my PC being slow and old, and because it is. But I grew used to sort of loading game and then maybe going to make tea or read a book for a bit. I actually have a book right next to my PC for whenever I decide that it's time to do a little bit of safe scamming and maybe go back to turns. If you choose to load, be prepared. In my case, or in the case of my PC, for a good couple of minutes at least.
Right, you can move on now.
Thank you very much for that.
So you've answered that question sufficiently.
I approve of this use of the buzzer.
It's becoming a bit like Just a Minute.
So, the remaining two stages. I'm going to start with the faster one.
Oh God, imagine Pavel in just a minute. It'd last a second.
They'd have to change the name of the programme.
Oh my God, this is stressful.
Just an hour.
As a mercenary commander, you manage your outfit of mechs and their pilots by essentially flying, I should suppose say sailing from one star system to another, and picking up your various contracts. So the company management stage is is just all about timing. Everything you do takes time. If you pick up a contract for your mech warriors, for your mercenary company on a star system 23 days away, you want to make sure that your technicians and your dropship are working on all the mech modifications and repairs in the meantime, that your engineers are working on improving your dropship as you fly there, that your mech warriors that got injured 2 battles ago are hopefully maybe be in the condition to fight again by the time you reach your destination, and that you don't run out of money by the time you arrive there. So you have to pick your contracts carefully in order to be able to actually fund your company as you go along. And before you know it, you've played through your first or second year of your company's existence by just watching your dropship sail through space, and days going by, all those works and all those improvements and modifications and refit jobs going through. So this is the management part of the job, and it's, parts of it are fairly basic, what you would expect from your, say, base maintenance. Just improving your dropship facilities as such, so that your mech warriors heal faster, or your techies work faster on the mech repairs or modifications. But the actual mech refit is what the meat of the game in this particular stage is all about. If you can pick up and assemble a mech from various parts and salvage that you buy or find on the field, but you want to make any model that you have your own by removing parts that you don't need, putting in other parts, changing armor, just about anything you can.
That sounds like a really interesting part of the game.
And you spend quite a lot of time on it, but it also introduces a huge amount of variety to the game, because I mean, this is BattleTech. You'll by the time you've played through your second year of mercenary career, you will have seen a couple dozen different mech models. But each of those models can be modified almost infinitely. So they will have hardpoints, so it's not like you can put anything you want in any of those mechs, but there is a lot of variety. And with it come tactics, which I'll get to maybe today or maybe next week, depending on how much time I'm given. Because again, this is just you faffing around in your mech bay, taking out maybe this particular missile launcher and putting in a different missile launcher, and then realizing that you don't have enough heat sinks to manage your heat properly, which might just cause trouble on warmer planets.
I used to do that in the Mech Warrior game.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, just like, you would modify your mech and then realise that you didn't put any heat sinks in it, and as soon as you fired the missile, the whole thing shut down.
And exactly that.
It's just hilarious.
So this game has a lot of that going on. But every job you come up with, even a simple job of you got badly smashed, and I don't know, you lost one of the mechs lost, say, an arm and right torso in a previous battle. By the time the battle ends and you get back to your dropship and you're planning your next, say, contract, maybe 15 days away in another star system, you want to make sure that the damaged mech is worked on, so you tell your chief of engineering to remove the damaged or missing, in this particular case, arm, which already takes, say, a day and costs you some money. Then put an arm in its place, fill it with armor, add equipment to it, remove broken equipment from it. Each of those actions will take some time, will cost you money. And sometimes you realize that you might actually be paid less for a job you're just sailing towards than the damage you have to repair in a single mech after a battle. So the the management stage is actually much more difficult, I'm going to say, and much more important than I realized at first. Because you would think that this game is all about tactics, which are complicated and very diverse, and I'll get to it because sorry. I love it, but I should get into the details.
The threat of the buzzer totally pushing you through this. This is nice.
Stressful. But the tactical stage, you're at least facing choices and consequences of those choices within the space of a single battle. And you can see and you can predict what you should be paying attention to. Whereas the company management stage is where you're making financial decisions and you see their effects. And both time spent on those decisions and money spent on those decisions a month later or 2 months later. And at the moment I'm sort of managing that, but it's much more entertaining than I expected it to be, because I thought it would all be about, let's just modify those mechs the way I like it and make sure that I, win enough battles to keep me going. But if you're flamboyant with your mech modifications, you buy maybe decent, unique missile launcher here or autocannon there, and a little bit of chassis on this particular planet. Hire a few additional mech warriors because they're very easy to damage, and they take humans are just very delicate, and as soon as they even a little bit injured, they spend half a month or a month in sick bay. So you want to have some backbenchers ready to go in, and you want to make sure that they're obviously experienced enough to actually take part in harder battles. So you keep rotating your mech warriors as well to make sure that everybody's getting their experience. This game has so much going on, it's so complex that the first couple days of playing it will be, for most players, just trying to keep up with all the aspects of it. Do I still have time to go into tactical stage? Because this is going to take about an hour.
3 minutes.
Tactical stage is turn-based isometric view. You've got some mechs that just shoot at each other. Everything matters. Every single bit of decision you make, matters. How much you move, how far you move, depends. If you move as much as you can, at the end of your movement, your rotation, as soon as you end your movement, you decide how exactly your mech rotates at the end of that movement. If you've moved to your maximum amount, you will not be able to rotate as much as you could if you've just walked, say, 2 steps. And you want to make sure that you're facing towards your enemies, but you also want to make sure that they are facing your tougher armor. Mechs will be lightly armored on their back, but also you keep losing armor as you're being fired upon, so at some point you might want to maybe give them another arm if your right arm's being badly damaged. This game is all about attrition. You don't see mechs falling left and right every turn, unless you have heavy units on the field and you're being greeted by a lance of tiny lights and cheap mechs that already have their armor stripped because they're impoverished bandits that you've been hired to just kick out. So most of the time, turn after turn, you have to plan exactly how you want to get rid of those tons and tons of armor on your enemies. Just as Battletech would have it traditionally, there is all the different locations on your enemies and obviously on your own mechs that can be hit. If armor gets stripped, your internal structure gets hit, which may result in critical hits that remove your weapons or onboard equipment, because we should say that all the equipment your mechs carry, all the weaponry, they actually located somewhere on the chassis as it's getting hit, and you lose that arm, you might just you lose the autocannon that was in it. Almost every type of terrain you walk through will have some consequences to your speed, to your stability, to sometimes it's different biomes will give you modifiers to the way you manage your internal heat. If you're in a forest, you're partially protected from enemy fire, things like this. Obviously, if you're moving fast enough, you do have a couple different bars for in just about any video game. So in this game, you obviously have your armor, your internal structure, but you also have a bar for evasiveness. You have a bar for stability. You have a bar for your mech warrior wounds. A couple of other things. Obviously, line of sight matters as well. If you can see your enemies, you can shoot at them. If there is a hill between you, you cannot. But maybe if somebody else sees that particular mech from another angle, you can still shoot at it, but only with your missiles, because they obviously can arch. Things like this. Very complex.
Thank you, Pawel. Thank you very much.
I'm only starting. I'll be here next
Thank
week.
you, Pawel.
So expect more Battletech
Thank you.
chat next
Part
week.
2's a coming.
Damn it!
I do have one question for you about this game, right? Because it does sound pretty good, I have to say. It does sound pretty good. But I've heard, listening to some other people talking about this, that this is not a game where you go into every single mission expecting to win.
Oh yeah. Well,
but I've heard that that people have been playing it in a way that sort of you go into a mission and you just take what you can from it and get back out of there as quickly as possible.
you can withdraw, yes.
Yeah.
You're a mercenary, so as much as your employers would expect of you to fulfill the contract, you have to count. That's where the management part comes in, because if you can see your casualties getting really bad, you have to make the decision. At some point, you realize you're already getting paid less for a mission you're taking part in than what your repair bill will be. No point staying any longer.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
You're gonna lose some reputation with this employer, and sometimes you just bite the bullet.
But that's an interesting thing to me, because a lot of these kind of games, you go in and you would save scum until you win, but it seems that this game is that difficult, and the management is so important in it that's not really practical.
I don't think one of the things that will prevent you from save scamming is the fact that you have to wait an hour and a half for the game to load.
That's not that's a bug or a.
It's just my PC being old. I'm sure.
There you go.
But
I have heard that that's a problem though for everybody.
Yeah, I would imagine. Hopefully they'll patch it if it's for everybody. But in terms of just the way the game's been designed, you're supposed to make these decisions. You will never win all the battles, because sometimes you're just facing enemies that are straight up tougher than you, and sometimes it's just luck. You might think you're well prepared, and a single missile will hit your heaviest mech in the head, and your mech warrior is down. Your well experienced pilot is down, and you've lost the majority of your firepower just like that. It might just be pure luck. Granted, headshots are very rare, but they can happen. And it's simply because there's such a massive amount of factors to consider during the tactical stage that sometimes you'll just get overwhelmed simply because you've not taken something into consideration. And there's a proper thrill in withdrawing from a battle, as strange as it sounds.
Right, that's enough.
Man, I'll be back with more Battletech chat soon.
We'll see. Right, thanks, Pawel. That does sound like a good game. I don't think my computer could handle it, but especially with those long loading screens, I would get very tired of that very quickly. So it's a game that I really want to play, but I don't know if I sink money in it, I can't play it. I would be very, very annoyed. So yeah. I'm still on the fence at the moment about whether I'm going to pick it up.
I'll let you know if the loading screens get faster.
Dave, did you say you had an opinion on this game?
Pawel's pretty much covered it, because it's interesting. The game is somewhat similar to XCOM in some ways.
XCOM is bare bones compared to tactical stage, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the way, in the sense that you've got an overworld that you're managing, and then you've got the tactical battle, and it's turn-based, and you're limited in the number of people you can have. Like, you can't just have, you're limited to 4 in this. Is that correct?
You will always feel,
But there's another similarity. In XCOM 2 in particular had a lot of issues with slowdowns and transitions on the map, like constantly. You click in the map and then it's like it's stopped, and you're like, what is it waiting for? And then it like it moves.
I've not seen a lot of slowdowns once the mission actually starts. You will sometimes have, I don't know, AI may spend a second or 2 seconds thinking what to do, but you will not.
I think people are complaining about things like the thingy the special animations and stuff.
Oh right, sorry, I should have mentioned that there is you can.
Have you turned those off?
I have. Because it was annoying me. I do prefer looking at this game from isometric point of view. I still have a sort of semi-active camera when mechs walk around, but
I'm gonna have to hit the buzzer.
Yep.
I'm shutting up now. For now, I'll be back. Well, it was quiet,
right, okay,
man.
that's BattleTech by Harebrained Schemes. So we've got to give out our internet stuff. This episode has gone on for far too long. I was not expecting this episode to go on this long, but considering we didn't have that much to talk about. But hey, well done us.
Hey!
Okay, if you want to email us, got any comments, questions, etc., you can email us at firstplayertoken@gmail.com. That's FIRST playertoken. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. We have a PSN community. You can just search for First Player Token. Our Twitter is @1ST Player Token.
That's once player token.
Thank you very much, Euan. We have a Discord. You can go to discord.me/firstplayertoken to find us there. My Twitch username is Unnecessary Chris. We're still planning on setting up one for doing board gaming on, so we're going to have our own dedicated Unnecessary Twitch channel. And we are part of the Podnose Network,
The UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
Any quick news, Euan?
No.
Thank you. Okay, so that's been episode 85. We're hoping we might get a board games episode out to you, possibly next week.
We've got one ready to go.
I think we're pretty much ready to record one, so yeah, we should hopefully get one out soon. But until then, thanks for listening.
Bye.
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 Oh yeah, where's the buzzer so I can press that one?
Oh, it's in the drawer there.
The special Pawel buzzer.
I have a buzzer now.
For when you buzz too much.
So what happens?
Next one down, maybe.
So when do you buzz that then? Well,
Which one's the camera?
what's the buzzer for?
One of them's not got any batteries in it. Aye, that one.
Where's the yellow one? It's the one. It's the one I had last time.
What's the buzzer for? Oh,
This will be a fun edition.